It's time to think about events over the other side of the pond because it's time for Simon Marks's American Week.
Clive, I know a lot of water has passed under the bridge over the last 7 days, but I am still very much stuck on this.
So I saw the play, and I'm a person that loves sports and was a good athlete, and I understand sports really well, really well. And that wasn't a foul.
Now, I must confess that even I never thought there was a chance that Donald Trump would try to rig the outcome of the World Cup. I mean, yes, of course he's going to try hell for leather to rig the outcome of America's midterm elections in November. And certainly he has no shortage of form rigging the outcome of numerous deals that he's signed to ensure that he and his family are enriched by them. If you weren't with me last week, the Trumps are $2.2 billion better off since he returned to the presidency. Their wealth having tripled since Inauguration Day. But the World Cup being fought partly on American soil, well, I was naive enough to think that the man who professes to understand sports really well might leave that one alone.
He gave him a red card. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't think it meant much. Then I started hearing that means he can't play in the next game, at least in the next game. I said, boy, that's a big, if it happened to another player, how do you penalize him for a game that hasn't been played yet? It's very unfair. You can't do that. So, yes, I asked for a review by FIFA.
And of course, as we all know, Gianni Infantino of FIFA made sure that review allowed the US team's top goal scorer, Falarin Balogun, to play against Belgium on Tuesday night. And to the eternal pleasure of pretty much everybody everywhere, the Belgians then thrashed the American side 4-1, which at least allows American parents to explain to their offspring that cheats never prosper. Even if little Johnny then asks mum and dad to explain the extra $2.2 billion showing up on the Trump family's balance sheet. But here's the thing. This was about more than Trump shamelessly trying to fix the outcome of the world's premier sporting event. If you listened carefully to what he was saying, proposing to scrap rules that prevent a team's top players from taking to the field, making it open season for aggressive on-pitch tactics, comparing the audiences of the World Cup to multiple Super Bowls taking place night after night, you can hear the penny dropping and a play being made for the United States to become the dominant power in the very lucrative business of world football.
What we didn't know is how successful it was going to be. I didn't know. I said, Johnny, is anyone going to show up? Take the most successful Olympics or the most successful FIFA, and you look at what's happened. You look at the numbers for this in the United States. It's not like 10% more, 2% more, 5% more, which is more expected. It's like 4 times more successful than anything they've ever done. In fact, I said to Johnny, let's do it again next time.
He can smell the money a mile away, and so can the American TV networks. Those hydration breaks, which are really commercial breaks worth more than $250 million to the titans of American TV, may prove to be the very thin end of a very thick wedge. In other realms this week, the president was facing geopolitical challenges. By the time he got to the NATO summit in Ankara, he was in a foul mood, only showing up, he said, because the host, Turkish strongman Recep Tayyip Erdogan, had personally invited him to attend. Fuming over Iran's attacks on 3 commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, the president ordered the US military back into action against Iranian targets, including air defense systems that the Americans have previously claimed were obliterated.
Is the ceasefire done? Is the MOU dead?
To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people.
He made those comments seated alongside the usually prostrate NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte. And at one point, the president gestured towards the NATO chief and inadvertently revealed that the Iranians have got the US all ends up.
If I make a deal with him, we have a deal, and he goes out, he talks. We make a deal. Everyone's agreed. No nuclear weapon. We make a deal. They go outside, talk to the press. They say, we never even talked about it. There's something wrong with them. They're cuckoo.
The old New York property mogul finding it incomprehensible that the Ayatollahs of Iran negotiate in a culturally different manner than his golfing buddies down in Florida. Phrases that raise huge questions about whether he has the patience, the discipline or the diplomatic guile to understand what it takes to bring a nuclear deal with Iran across the finishing line. By the time we got to his closing press conference in Ankara, the new line about the Iranians being scum was not really holding up to much scrutiny.
Last month you said Iranian leaders were very rational people, nice people to deal with, strong people, smart people. Today you said they were scum, sick people, and being led by sick people. What changed, and do you think...
I got to know them. So I've said that about a lot. Now, when you say rational, I think they're much more rational than level 1, level 2. Level 1 is gone, level 2 is gone. This is level 3.
And once he was aboard Air Force One heading home, we came full circle. The wash, rinse, repeat routine on full display.
We've already won militarily. They have very little left, and they want to make a deal so badly. They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal so badly. I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know that they're going to honor the deal. That's the problem.
So on we go. If only the future of the entire global economy didn't depend on it, we could at least have a giggle. There were other developments this week. President Trump announced he will give Ukraine the right to manufacture Patriot missiles in Ukraine. That's a massive win for President Zelensky, whose drones continue to cause significant economic damage to Russia, where they have been targeting oil facilities, including some on the outskirts of Moscow. President Trump returned, as you always knew he would, to his obsession with Greenland. NATO leaders engaged in the usual flim-flam by talking about Arctic security instead. Now, if you're sitting there thinking we haven't got that much to worry about, the midterm elections are right round the corner, the Democrats are going to sweep the board, well, the Democrats this week had some pretty big troubles of their own to overcome.
What I love most about Maine are the people. We have watched this state become essentially unlivable for working class people, and it makes me deeply angry. My name is Graham Plattner, and I'm running for U.S. Senate in Maine.
Last year's video in which oyster farmer, military veteran and left-wing populist Graham Plattner launched his campaign to win an absolutely crucial Senate seat this November. Democratic Party strategists believed they had stumbled upon working-class gold, a man who might even lead the party one day as its presidential candidate. But over the last 11 long months, Mr. Plattner's campaign has turned into an ongoing disaster. First came the revelation that he has a Nazi tattoo on his chest. He claimed not to have realised it was an emblem of the SS. Then historic social media posts were unearthed in which he engaged in racist and homophobic slurs. They were also waved away by his backers. When his own wife alerted campaign staff to the fact that Mr. Plattner had been exchanging explicit texts with a variety of women, others came forward to accuse him of sexual assault and harassment. Still, his prominent supporters, including Senator Bernie Sanders and Senator Elizabeth Warren, stuck with him. This week, just days before it would have been too late for Democrats to replace him, a former girlfriend accused Mr. Plattner of rape. On Wednesday night, denying the allegations, he dropped out of the race and angrily pointed the finger of blame at the grandees of the Democratic Party.
Those in power who have the ability to do so are using these allegations as an excuse to take away all of the things that we need to run a campaign.
There is every possibility that in November, control of the Senate comes down to that single race in Maine. The idea that it's taken Democrats months to replace a candidate who was so obviously a major liability is just jaw-dropping given the stakes in the midterms. Jaw-dropping too this week, Rupert Lowe's appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, the fact that he was invited speaks volumes about growing interest in Restore Britain among Trump's Make America Great Again supporters. There's no doubt that some of them are shopping around looking for an alternative to Nigel Farage and reform, and that was before news of the election standoff in Clacton with Count Binface that lies ahead.
We now have a society which needs radical change, and we need to release the individual.
One way in which Mr. Lowe suggested that should happen is by relaxing Britain's restrictions on gun ownership. Except, unfortunately for him, he then made a major unforced error.
As you probably know, they banned handguns.
The 90s, right?
In the late 90s, because there was a murder up in Dunblane.
One murder.
One murder.
In fact, in the March 1996 attack on Dunblane Primary School, 16 pupils and 1 teacher were killed, 15 others were injured. It was not one murder, but the deadliest mass shooting in British history. And for the record, so far in 2026 alone, there have been 281 incidents of mass gun violence in America in which 4 or more people have been shot. So that's what an absence of gun control does for a society. It's been a long week. Let's end it where we began, with the World Cup, Donald Trump's failed efforts to rig an American victory, and the magical moment when the Belgian team savoured their win over the United States. In the dressing room afterwards, Belgium's players satirised Donald Trump's signature dance move to his favourite bit of music. It's a game in 2 halves, Clive, but sometimes the real magic happens after the final whistle.
Simon Marks and his American Week.